So as promised, I wanted to give you an update on the Tesla, I don't know, situation? What do you call that? I don't know. What I'm considering doing with the Tesla. So there's my performance Model 3. And yesterday I had the opportunity to drive a Model S Plaid for an extended period of time. And I wanted to give you my feedback when I thought of it. I thought it'd be like, oh, it's night and day difference. There's no way I'm ever gonna go back. But it's not really the case. The biggest difference right off the top is the Model 3 Performance has go-kart like handling. It has a very quick steering ratio and lower profile tires, and it's a lighter car. So when you cut the wheel into a corner, just jab it into a corner, it responds like violently. And it reminds me of the Corvettes I used to have. The steering turns from one opposite end to the other is 2 full turns, and it's done. It's a very quick ratio. The Plaid is about 2 1/4 turns, which doesn't seem like it's a lot more, but you really do feel it when you're doing quick turns back and forth and all that. The downside of that is on the highway, keeping the Model 3 Performance straight sometimes it's kind of a chore, because any little touch of the wheel and you're moving the car to another lane. So not something that's horrible, and of course you can always use autopilot and not have to worry about it. But when you're tired, it can be kind of annoying. I mean, that Corvettes were the same way. It's just that's just, I don't care. It's just one of those things that you get with a performance car. But so the Plaid, it rides softer even in the firmest and lowest setting. It felt more luxurious, obviously, because it is. And it didn't feel quite as sporty. But there was a particular turn, let's just call it a racetrack, that I'm used to, and when you take that turn pretty quickly in a Model S Plaid, it took it, and it didn't have the original tires. It had third-party tires that were not specifically made for Tesla. So I suppose that means it didn't have the foam inside, and it didn't, it makes a little bit more noise. But I didn't even notice that. What I noticed was lack of grip in comparison to the PS4s or P0s. But in any case, the suspension wise, it was very settled, very predictable. No real correction needed. It just went really well through the turn. Very easy to drive through the turn, kind of like the Corvettes were. And then the Model 3 was a little Mustangish in a turn, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but you've seen a lot of those videos on YouTube with Mustangs leaving shows and stuff and doing a burnout and going into the crowd and losing control and all that. The point is, it can be kind of unpredictable. So in the same turn with much better tires, because it's got that PS4s on there, it was a little squirty. It plowed a little bit, then it went into fishtail. Of course, it's got the stability control, but I'm also correcting it with the steering. I didn't have to do that with S. And it almost feels like the front end's a little bouncy at the limit. Like it grips and slips and grips and slips, and then when it does that, it feels like it bounces a little bit, like it needs a little bit better dampening, but already rides pretty hard. So it was kind of strange. I didn't expect that. I'm not really even sure how you'd fix that. But anyway, it doesn't really need fixing. It's a great car as it is. But I was just surprised that the S was more predictable and felt more comfortable to drive on cornering, because never expected that from a longer, heavier car. Now, it also might be because it has a longer wheelbase, therefore it feels more predictable, more stable. I don't know. I know that I had a 427 Cobra with a 90-inch wheelbase, and that car would swap ends if you did the wrong thing by looking at it. It also had a tremendous amount of power, even though the weight distribution was nearly 50-50. But anyway, point is, that was the handling difference that I felt. The brakes on the Model 3 feel way more secure. When you slam on those brakes to come to a hard stop, it stops like, you feel it on a seatbelt pretty hard. And it reminds me of the Corvette. I don't believe it has the same braking numbers as the Corvette does. I actually haven't compared, but it's a much heavier car. But it does have Brembo's front and rear. The red calipers are actually made by Brembo, even though they say Tesla on them. The Model S pedal felt squishier, and you had to press it a lot further down, and it was a little scary at first, but it does stop the car, but you definitely feel like it takes longer to stop, which is ironic because if you look at the road test from Car and Driver, on both cars, the Model 3 stops quicker from 70 miles an hour by 3 feet, but the Plaid stops faster by about 10 feet, 7 to 10 feet, I think it is, from 100 miles an hour. So I guess they dissipate heat better. And the 23 model of the Plaid has different brake pads, which should help a little bit. It's not going to transform the car by any means. Of course, if you get the $20,000 carbon ceramic package with the race tires, it'll make a huge difference, but no, there's even a possibility of affording that. Anyway, so those are the biggest differences I noticed as far as performance goes from those two aspects that I wanted to find out, which made the Plaid absolutely, not going to be something that's going to be like, oh geez, I really missed the 3. I would miss some of the dartiness of the 3, but at the same time on a highway, that dartiness can be kind of annoying. But the power difference is absolutely astonishing. Like you step on Model 3 performance, it launches and people scream and it throws your head in the seat, gives you a headache. I've had some people like want to vomit. It's just it's very impressive. And I took it to the drag strip. Actually, this one has only seen a couple runs. The previous one I had like 30 runs in it, and never degraded. It was consistency 11.3 all day long, and it was like 13 runs in one night, and it never lost performance. It lost a couple of miles per hour at the end, when the battery was getting down to like 75, but it was still doing 11.3, 11.4 all day long, and it was quite impressive. But where it wins is off the tree. I have a pretty good reaction time, and then after that the car just explodes with acceleration until 60. After 60 it really starts to level off. And to have a comparison was when I first floored it, for the first microsecond I thought, geez, this is no faster than the 3, and then it is, and then it is a lot faster. The difference is this: the 3 will accelerate, pin you to the seat to about 30 miles an hour, and then it kind of levels off at that level of acceleration, which is still incredibly impressive, until about 60 miles an hour. So the acceleration rate gets to a certain point and stays at that point. It's got into physics now. And then after 60, it starts to level off and go downhill. After 80, it really levels off and goes downhill. And you hit 100, it's really not that impressive anymore. That being said, it's faster than most cars that you're going to be on the street, even at those speeds. I would say, by somehow I know that it'll keep up with a C6 Corvette from about 40 to 100 on a closed track environment, because I would never fracture a law. However, after that, the 3 wanted to pull ahead a little bit and had some people in it, so it had extra weight. But so it's impressive. I'm not saying it's slow by any means, because it's not. But the Plaid, the faster it goes, you hit 30, 40, 50. First, you can't even keep up with how quickly he's getting to those speeds. But the more speed it gains, the faster the acceleration rate becomes. So it continues to build on that. It's like an exponential curve. And up to about 80 miles an hour from what I hear, and that's truly fact from what I hear, because I didn't go faster than that, it will not even put the full power down until 80 miles an hour because of traction issues. So the experience is quite different. 0 to 20, about the same maybe. Probably not on the numbers, but it doesn't really feel much different. And 0 to 60, you certainly feel a difference. But beyond that, it is unbelievable that how a car just never gives up. And was that usable in every day? Of course not. Is it usable when you're doing 30 to 50, 50 to 70, 30 to 80? Oh yeah, that's when you really notice it. In the mid-range, it is significantly I would say 50 to 80 feels like the Plaid 60 to 80 or 50 to 80, whatever, feels like the Model 3 0 to 60. It just throws you in the seat. And, rumor has it that it'll pull that hard to 150 miles an hour. Could I use that every day? Obviously not. When you'd have, fun with that at the track, because it's supposed to run low nines at 155 miles an hour. I have personally seen Plaids run 9.2s and 9.3s at 148 to 150. So it can give you those numbers, and that's fun. And that's one thing that I do enjoy doing from time to time. Not that I'm a drag racer by any means, but it is fun. And obviously the other things that it gives you is all the other luxuries in the car and all that the new Model 3 is getting a lot of. So it'd be less and fewer reasons to get a Model S as Model 3 gets, the high-end model comes out and all that. But the sound system is the other thing that's different. And they say the sound system on the, I forgot the exact specs, like 980 or 960 watts, 22 speakers versus 17 speakers, 15 speakers, something like that on this car. And they both sound phenomenal. And I thought it'd be like a huge difference. There isn't. What I've noticed was, and that's my business, Precision Tech Services, what I do is audio systems and home theaters and IT work and networking and all that stuff. So I do a lot of AV. And what I've noticed was the mid-range vocals and seeing things of those frequencies is clearer and cleaner sounding. So in other words, a little bit less harsh, so it doesn't hurt your ears. So a higher volume doesn't seem like it's higher because it's so clear. And the volume goes up to 11, which is funny because that's from another movie, and from Spinal Tap. And it can go all the way up without distortion. The Model 3 can't. The Model 3 will distort, excuse me, on the high end, about 9/10 of the way up, it starts to get a little bit of distortion. Not a big deal, but bass-wise, the Model 3 Performance and the long range both have a subwoofer in the trunk. The entry level does not. And the subwoofer, it feels like the Model 3 has more punchy bass, while the Model S has a deeper bass. But all around, it just feels like it's a more balanced sound system. But within 10 seconds of being in each car, you don't even notice anymore. You just notice that both sound awesome. So to me, it's like one or the other. I don't really care. And another thing that I thought was interesting is the front screen behind the steering wheel. Well, first, it is blocked by the steering wheel, and I use a low steering wheel, low sitting position. I just like that feel of that. So it does block the top of those instruments, which, every car I've ever driven does that. But I still rather have that than a yoke. I drove a car with a yoke and I just hated it. Maybe I can get used to it, but I don't want to. I don't miss having that screen there. To me, I found it much easier to be the Model 3 with everything on the center stack. And everything on one screen was easier. Now, one advantage of the dual screens is I can have the maps and the music at the same time in the Model S, and then the Model 3, I can just have that little strip on the bottom that's showing you what song is playing and control, back and forth, whatever tracks I want to go to. But you get the full screen of the music, which they need to improve, in my opinion. I stream music from my phone, so having CarPlay or a much better interface that controls that better would be awesome, because there's so much potential there because of the screen. But in any case, you see a lot more of it, so it's I do prefer that better. So is there a reason practically everyday driving to upgrade from a Model 3 Performance to a Plaid? The answer is absolutely not. You get so much car for the Model 3. It is an amazing car, and it's only going to get better. I believe the next Model 3 Performance is going to gain more performance than this one. Probably what I'm seeing is probably going to be like a mid 10-second car in a quarter mile, which would be pretty impressive. But 9.2, 9.3 and a quarter mile is, put it this way, does it make sense that I had a 1965 427 Cobra replica made by Kirkham Motorsports in aluminum that I spent so much freaking money on and it nearly killed me multiple times? Of course not. But that's what I like. I like performance cars. I like, crazy performance. And nothing's ever gonna replace that Cobra for me. I had to sell it because of multiple reasons. One of them is thinking I was gonna kill my kids or myself in it because it was so dangerous. But in any case, it's a car that I've always missed, and the Plaid can outperform that car, which is crazy to me. That car weighed 2,000 pounds and nearly 700 horsepower, and it had a 527 as a board and stroke 427, aluminum Shelby block. It was insane. So right now I'm obviously in a different financial position than I was then, but I think I can make this happen, and I think that it would be pretty awesome to have that car, even if something comes out, you know, in 5 minutes and becomes faster than it, like the Lucid Air, if I ever make that car. But anyway, I thought the Plaid was an incredible car. It gives you everything the Model 3 gives you and more. And the only drawback that I really see is size, which is could go either way, but the steering response. But the overall handling, I think, is better. So I decided to place an order, and so I'll be selling this Model 3, which is not going to be an easy decision. This has been my favorite car that I've ever owned, other than the Cobra. But overall, I probably do like it better than the Cobra because I can drive it every day. So right now, here's one example. I'm going to a customer's job to install a TV, just a simple job, and you'll see that I have these knee pads things here to protect the plastic trunk lid that should be carpet in my opinion, but you know, my tools are all in there, and I have more stuff in the back, and typically I protect the seat with a seat protector, but those things are pretty light, they're not going to go anywhere. And you know, with the Model S, it would be so much easier to have all that stuff in it, because one, you know, I can fold the seats down here too, but you still have the trunk deck, so to speak, that is kind of in the way for height. With the Model S, I could easily put that stuff in and out of the car and have more room for more things if I needed it. And you know, it is more practical in that way. It's obviously not the reason I'm getting the car, but you know, it doesn't hurt. And I actually test fitted it in my garage, which is not a large garage, and it fit. This is the Cobra. I've shown it before in other videos, but that's the Cobra. That was just an incredible car. But anyway, kind of a long video explaining the differences between those two cars from my perspective, from my point of view, and my reasoning for it. And you know, guys have any questions, any comments, let me know. I'm not saying it's a smart decision, but I am very nervous about it, but I'm also very much looking forward to it, because I think it'll be an incredible experience. And Sam, if you're out there listening to this, we're gonna race. Sam has a GT 500 and he's been tracking it all summer, so he's getting pretty good at racing, so it should be a good race.